Okay, welcome back. We are going to pick up with chapter 9 today, 9.1 on percents. And let me just say a note about calculator use. I fully expect you to use it in this chapter. It just makes life a lot easier, but you have to know how to set up the problems without a calculator. So don't use the calculator until you have the problems with the numbers in them that you know you just need to type out a multiplication or division problem into the calculator. When you do your homework, but especially when you turn in your test on percentages at the end of chapter 9, if you don't show any work, and I will have you go through the test without a calculator first. So you've got to be able to set everything up. But if you don't show any work and you just have answers, products, or quotients on there, and they're wrong in any way, shape, or form, you're going to lose too many points. So make sure that you understand the processes going on in each of these sections, but then you may use a calculator to do large 3-digit multiplication or division problems that are going to crop up almost every time. Okay. 9.1 is percents and fractions, and so I think this lesson's pretty simple as an introduction into percentages. If you want to just take a quick look at the key concept box, it shows that 16 out of 100 boxes are shaded in, and whenever we say 16 per 100, which would be a ratio, the word percent means per 100. We've talked about that before in history class, and it's come up in math when we talked about centimeters. But the root word cent, C-E-N-T, means 100. So when we say 16%, we mean 16 per 100, or 16 out of 100. So keep that in mind as we go through this whole chapter. All right. So the first things that we're going to do in chapter 9 are they're going to show you a percent, and I'm just going to go through example 1. It says to write the percent 37% as a fraction. Well, I just told you that the word percent is per 100, so I can make it a ratio. 37 to 100. 37 per cent. Okay? There it is. That's the answer. That was not hard, right? I think y'all are going to be able to handle this. All right, let me clear this one off. And let's try another one. Because they are going to start trying to trick you. We've talked about that before. And let me also remind you that you will have to put them in simplest form. Maybe the book won't ask you to, but I know that last time, in fact, I'm looking over at 9.1 and I do not see that it says in simplest form. So you might want to be a slacker, not put it in simplest form. That's okay. When you look in the back, the answers probably will be in simplest form, so you might get confused. But not reducing ratios messed y'all up on the test in chapter 8. Or it was actually a quiz that we took the last day that we were together at school. There was a question about something like question marks and some other symbol, I can't remember, and half of you didn't answer it because you didn't see the ratio of 4 to 6 or whatever it was at the bottom. You were supposed to simplify it down to 2/3 or whatever the simplest form was. So make sure you know how to simplify these ratios. All right, second one. This will be an example of doing that. B in example 1 says to change 50% into a fraction. So I'm going to rewrite it as a fraction, 50 per 100, and I'm going to reduce it. And you will see there the answer is 1/2. Okay, let's try something a little more challenging. Example 2, to write a fraction as a percent, rewrite the fraction with a denominator of 0, because that would be percent, per 100, right? So, again, they're going to start off giving you an easy one, 4/5. And all they're telling you to do is write it with a denominator of 100. It's going to be an equivalent fraction. This side over here will be a percentage, right? Because it's per cent. So how do we change 4/5 into something over 100? Well, how do we go from 5 to 100? We can multiply that 5 by 20, and that gives us 100. So if we do the same thing to the numerator, we would get 80 hundredths, or 80%. So your answer, because it's, well, your answer should be this, 80 over 100, because it said write it with as a fraction. Rewrite the fraction with a denominator. Notice out to the side, they actually are showing that that's 80%, just as long as you know those are the same thing. All right, and example to part B, 3/4, turning 3/4 into a fraction with a denominator of 100. How can we go from 4 to 100? We can multiply it to 25. So we can multiply the numerator by 25 and get 75 over 100. All right, moving on to example 3. Oh, I'm sorry, before we do that, we have guided practice. So I'm going to, or you should pause the video and work out 1 through 4, and then start the video back up, and I'm going to work them out here, but I would like for you to try to do them on your own first. So this is where you should hit pause. And now I'm going to keep talking. Okay, number 1 at the bottom of 449, guided practice. The directions for all 4 say write the percent as a fraction or the fraction as a percent. Well, number 1 is a percent. It's 24%. So the directions we need to follow are to write that as a fraction. 24 per 100 is 24% as a fraction. When you look in the back of the book for the answers that you're going to do for homework, that it will be in simplest form. So what's our highest common denominator? Well, I'm not positive, but I think it's 20. It's 4. So if we divide the numerator and denominator, not by 6, but by 4, we will get 6 over 25, and that is the answer. All right, if you haven't tried number 2, pause and do that one. It is changing 55% into a fraction. So we know that that is 55 per 100. They have a common denominator of 5. 55 divided by 5 is 11, and 100 divided by 5 is 20, and there is the reduced fraction answer. All right, moving on to number 3. These two, 3 and 4, are already fractions, so we need to turn them into percentages, which means they need to be percent per 100, 100 in the denominator. How do we move from 10 to 100? We multiply by 10. When we multiply the 7 by 10, we get 70. Now, you do not reduce this, or you're going to end up back at 7/10, okay? So the directions said, write the fraction as a percent. Well, I haven't done that yet. I've only written it as a fraction over 100, and here is where I need to change it to 70%. You need to incorporate that percent sign into your answer. And let's try number 4. 1 over 50 needs to convert to the equivalent fraction over 100 by just multiplying top and bottom by 2. That gives me 2 per 100, or 2%. All right, hopefully that didn't cause you any problem. I think they start this lesson out at a pretty simple level. Let's move on to page 450. At the top there, you will see a chart of common percents. This is something that you might want to refer to throughout the chapter. Hopefully, at least half of those are familiar enough to you that you should not have to look. For example, back on page 449, you were asked to change, in example 1b, you had to write 50% as a fraction. Hopefully you knew that was 1/2. So there should be some in that chart that you already know. But refer back to it if you want to. Those are just some common changes from percentages down to the reduced fraction. Let's look at example 3. This is where there's a little bit of trying to figure out how, using it in calculations. So let's go through this one pretty slowly. Example 3 says, find 60% of 75. 60% of 75. And so they're kind of looking up above at that table, and they're saying, you do this by using the fact that 60% is the same fraction as 3/5. Now we could work this out. We just did this on the other page. So if you need to go through the steps, change it to 60 per 100 and reduce it, you will get 3/5. So another way to look at this question that they're asking us is, what is 60% of 75? We could say, what is 3/5 of? And what do we know of means? It means to multiply, okay? So 3/5 of or times 75. And we already know how to multiply fractions. So we have 3/5 times 75 over 1. You can cross reduce, and then you would get 45. All right, and that's worked out for you on page 450. So you have my example and also the one in the book. Let me clear this off. Okay. I believe we have time for one more. Hopefully I will not get cut off. Let's look at example 4. In March of 2005, 14 of the top 100, so 14%, there's that hint of the top 100, 14 to 100, tennis players were from the United States. What percent of players were not from the United States? So they're going to work it out, but let's first you can go off of this fraction. If 14 out of the 100 were from the United States, that means that 86 out of 100 were not, okay? So, and you can see them working that out with the subtraction problem there. This is already set up as a percent, 86 per 100, and so there is your answer. All right, what I would like for you to do now is solve 5, 6, 7, and 8 at the bottom of 450, and I'm going to stop this video here. So it's going to run out. There are no more answers, but I'm going to attach a small second video that goes along with chapter 9 to give you the answers to that. Actually, I'm changing my mind as I'm talking. I think what I'm going to do, because we're at the end of this lesson, is tell you the answers. So if you want to pause and then start it back after you've worked them out, I'm just going to tell you the answers. I'm not going to work them out. You have examples to show you how to do each one of them. But here are the answers to 5 through 8 on 450. Number 5, you should get 630. Number 6, you should get 50. Number 7, you should get 88%. And number 8, you should get 44%. All right, you can see on RenWeb the homework that I assigned to you from this lesson. Again, you can use a calculator when you have to do multiplication, which I don't think showed up very much in 9.1. So if it were me, I would hold off on the calculator until 9.2. Tomorrow, on Tuesday, your math is actually wrapped up in your science lesson, but I will have a video posted for 9.2 on Wednesday. Love y'all. Bye.